Hey everybody, Chris with Killer Arcade Games here, and today I'm going to try kind of an experimental video. I want to know if you guys are interested in this. I know this is something that interests the heck out of me, especially when I was younger. I thought I'd show you guys what's inside my Rush the Rock cabinet. I know when I was a kid, if I walked into the arcade and they happened to be working on a machine and I got to see what was inside of that machine, I was like losing my mind with excitement, trying to contain myself, trying to keep my distance, but like I needed to see what was inside that cabinet, what made these things run. It just seemed so mysterious to me, and I knew I had a console at home, but I didn't know what was inside of these. And then in high school, when I got a job working in an arcade, I would oftentimes, when we were slow, I would take the keys and I would sneak behind the racing cabinets and pop them open and see what was inside of those, and basically any cabinet I could look inside of, I would. So fast forward to now when I'm nearly 40 years old and I'm buying these real cabinets. One of the most exciting things to buying these real cabinets for me is to get to open them up and look inside. Now, some of the excitement has been spoiled because YouTube, you go to like TNT Amusements on their channel, Todd Tuckey, he shows you all inside the cabinets, which I think is really cool. And I would go on there and just search for different cabinets I wanted to see inside of. So with all that said, I really hope you guys enjoy this kind of video, and if you do, I'll open up the other cabinets I have and show you inside of there. But for now, let's take a look inside of Rush the Rock, see what makes this thing run. All right, well, I just took the back panel off. This lock no longer works on this cabinet. I never had a key for it, so probably have to rekey that, but a couple screws do the job. And on the back of the cabinet, just a note, this grate usually goes right here. It's a vent to let, we assume, to let the heat out of the cabinet, which it probably does function as that also. But there are actually some monitor adjustment pieces in here. It's hard to see, but you can kind of tell they're right here, and they will help adjust the color on the monitor and all that stuff. And we actually made a note, red, green, and blue, because we could not figure out what was what. But just in case you're ever adjusting the monitor or trying to adjust those settings safely while the monitor is running on a San Francisco Rush the Rock or a Rush cabinet, just remember to take this piece off and you'll have easy access to it. So on the back of these cabinets, you'll find information about the cabinet, usually right here, but a lot of times these get destroyed, like you can't quite see the manufacture date. Good news is, inside the cabinet, there's usually another one, and you can see it right there. January 16th, 1997. Let's start looking at the back of the monitor here. These are old school CRT monitors. Just a quick note, if you happen to ever buy one of these and you don't know already, these are going to be kind of dangerous to be poking around in. A lot of times these old monitors actually hold power in the capacitors in there, so you really don't want to mess around too much. I mean, you can adjust the flyback there, which in my case, this one's actually a brand new one installed by my buddy, the Wicked Arcade, because I'm a wuss and I just don't know what I'm doing. I didn't really want to dive into this thing not knowing what I'm doing, and he replaced all that for me. And up here is the neck of the monitor. It's really hard to get a good video of. I'm trying to stick the camera in there, but you'll get a glow from that little center there if it's on. And say you're not getting picture, but you look to see if there's neck glow, at least you'll know if the monitor's working or if maybe the board isn't working. This is the neck board back here. This thing is usually covered with some kind of cardboard or just some kind of thing to protect you from accidentally touching it, because once again, it could be holding power. Or if it's on and you touch that, you're probably gonna get a horrible shock. So definitely don't touch any of that stuff. Let's move down to the game parts, basically. It is connected with a JAMA harness up here. This is just the main board that runs the actual game. This is probably one of the main processors, and the reason I believe that is there's a very large fan above it. Just to give you reference, this fan is pretty huge. It's most of my hand. I don't know what size it actually is. It's a thick, heavy-duty fan that makes a lot of noise and blows a lot of air. Blows down on this processor here and this board over here, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So this game says it's an Atari game, but if you look closely there, we've got a Midway chip, which is upside down from our view. And the reason there's a Midway chip in there is they actually bought Atari right around the time of this game's release. So that makes sense. That makes sense why I love it. You guys know I love Midway games. At the bottom of the board here is the flash kit. Well, this was not always a flash kit, of course. This used to have a hard drive that was in this tray here and plugged in right there, but at some point, I'm sure the hard drive died. Whoever had it before me replaced it with a flash kit, which is what you do. It just makes more sense, and it's a little bit more reliable and probably makes the game load just a tad faster. So to the left of the main board is what we call the wheel driver board, and I'll show you the back of the wheel in just a second. So this thing is a large heat sink, which is probably another reason this huge fan is right here. It's blowing on that heat sink to keep it cool. That's what drives the actual wheel motor. That's what keeps it jerking in your hand and keeping you from pulling one way or the other. It gives that realism feel, which probably also explains the huge capacitors that are on this board. As far as I know, that's just about all this board does, but there could be more. So if you guys happen to know and you're watching this video, let me know in the comments if it has other duties, but as far as I know, it takes the signal off the main board and just turns it into jerking the wheel around. Speaking of the wheel, if you look back in this hole here, you'll be able to see That big cog right there has a belt wrapped around it, and that shaft is what is holding the wheel. And the motor below it is what's jerking the wheel all around, controlled by the board over here. And to the right of the main board, we have one more little PCB here, and that is the amplifier board. That takes the audio signal, I guess, from the main board and actually amplifies it through all 4 of the speakers and the subwoofer. Yes, this cabinet has 4 individual speakers and a subwoofer. The funny thing about these boards is I can find these quite a bit on eBay. I can never really find a replacement main board. I can never really find a replacement steering board, so I'm hoping this stuff lasts me a while. And underneath the amplifier board is our power supply. So this powers the whole game as far as I know. I don't know, I guess it powers the monitor as well. Somebody who knows more about this can actually tell me. But what I found odd is like, what's plugging into this thing here? So when you unplug it, it's just a regular house outlet. Took me a while to figure out what it was. It actually runs through the front of the cabinet and powers the marquee light. But this is a standard Suzo HAP power supply. One interesting thing you need to know about most arcade cabinets is if things start acting weird, like it's rebooting on its own or shutting down, which mine started doing the other day, the voltage knob may have gotten bumped or be off a little bit. Now you have to be very careful. You have to know exactly what you're turning it to, so you need to have like a voltmeter, all that good stuff, which luckily I now have because of Jojo at the Wicked Arcade. He gave me an extra one he had. This is the game's main power switch. Very much looks like a regular PC power supply. I think it's the same almost in form factor, but it's an arcade power supply. And here is the right angle power cord, because this thing sticks out past the edge of the cabinet. If you push it up against a wall with a regular cord, it's going to get kinked up. Took me a while to find a good replacement of that, but I finally did. My original cord was all chewed up. And if we move down below all of that, we can see the back of the coin box. I'm not exactly sure what this does here. I don't know if it's part of the isolation transformer. I've heard it works with the monitor to do something. I could be wrong. Somebody who knows more about these cabinets can maybe educate us in the comments, because I would love to know, actually. To the left of that, we have some mouse poop. This cabinet had a bit of a mouse problem. Luckily, I've pulled out the corpses that I've found so far. I did not see that poop was back there, unfortunately. Above the isolation transformer is the back of the pedal. So this cabinet has 3 pedals, a gas brake, and a clutch. So these work with potentiometers. That little wheel gets moved when you press down the pedal. It moves this thing, which moves that wheel, which tells the game how much or how little you're pressing the pedals. Pretty interesting. These are built like a tank. These pedals usually last a long time. I'm sure the original pedals and maybe the potentiometers have been replaced over the years, but who knows? And here's the marquee I was talking about, of course. The marquee light is powered by that plug that's found in the back of the cabinet. If we go down here, there's really not much to show you on the front. This wheel will actually lower out of the way. This entire front piece can be taken off completely, or you can just unscrew the screws that are at the bottom of it and lift it up so you can see inside of it. There is a little kickstand, almost like when you have your hood of your car open, and it holds it open. So these buttons actually have little wiring harnesses on the back of them. Same thing on this side. Really nothing terribly interesting. They have breakaways, so when you do open it, you don't rip the wires out. And this is the coin door. This one has a gigantic anti-theft thing or whatever. This thing is a huge pain in the butt. I hate it being on here. You actually run into it with your shins every now and then if you're hitting the clutch a lot. But let's open this up. And inside we have working coin doors, at least mostly working. They're not perfect. They'll mostly register credits, but it doesn't matter because I keep this game on free play anyway. Down inside of here, this is not where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to be up in that cradle there. But this actually has the monitor adjustment board, so you can make sure everything looks good. And then over here on the right side, there is a service, volume down, volume up, and test mode. The test mode gets you into the game's settings, so you can change all kinds of things like difficulty, free play mode, all that. Service actually puts in a service credit. And the volume up and down actually lets you change the volume while the game is playing, which is extremely handy and very cool that you can do that, because some games make you go into the menu, change it, boot the game, and then play it and test it and all that. So I mentioned earlier how this cabinet has 4 speakers. It has one here, and if you move to the back of the seat, which is odd, they actually face the back of the cabinet. They come this way if you're standing behind the cabinet, but there's 4 speakers here. They all can act independently. It's like a little surround sound effect, which is very cool for an arcade cabinet. Not a lot of arcades had this back then, and I love this feature. And this is what the seat looks like right here. And you can see through the hole there, this just vents the audio to you. Maybe there was a reason the speakers weren't facing you. They didn't want it to be way too loud if the operator had the volume up really high. At the bottom of the back of the seat here, there is a grate that has art, which has been damaged, unfortunately, but underneath there is a subwoofer. So this cabinet has 5 speakers technically, but this gives the seat a nice rumble feeling. It makes it feel like when you get bumped from behind, you feel a little jolt in the seat. All right, guys, well, that's what's inside Rush the Rock. I really hope you found this enjoyable, like I said earlier in the video, and if you didn't, it's no big deal. I don't have to do these videos. It's more work for me anyway, but if you guys are genuinely interested in seeing inside of these cabinets, I'd love to show you. Some cabinets will have a lot of stuff in them, and some cabinets will have very little in them. It's pretty interesting. I can tell you just by the range of the three of these, some of these are packed with electronics, and the other ones are pretty much empty. They're just giant cabinets. Like, spoiler, Killer Instinct is a very large cabinet, and it doesn't have a whole lot going on inside of it. But that doesn't mean I won't show you if you're interested in seeing the inside of the cabinet. Well, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing for more arcade content. Leave me a comment letting me know what you think of this video. Did you like it? Was it kind of unnecessary? And we'll see if we do more of them from there. Also, if you happen to know some of the things that I talked about, like the isolation transformer, if you can explain what that does to us, and if you have any other weird inside knowledge about this cabinet specifically, please leave it in the comments. I always want to know more about this stuff. I know some people are afraid to leave comments saying, hey, you were wrong about this, or let me explain this further or better. You don't have to feel bad about doing that. I have no ego here. If I don't know something, I want to know more about it. That's the whole point of these videos, really, is to show what I know about them and learn as much as possible about the cabinets. So if you know something that I missed, or if I messed something up, leave me a comment. Let me know. I'm not going to be upset with you. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.